have a show of hands. How many people are on the B2B kind of enterprise side versus consumer? So enterprise first? Okay, great. And then consumer? Oh, good. That makes me feel better about my talk. And by the way, Bill, and Nathan, thanks for hosting me. Bill and I were competing on who's going to finish his or her slides sooner.
Latest.
Who won?
No, I think you won for latest.
For latest.
But only by about 8 seconds.
There you go. Great. Well, so I'm going to spend most of my time on, and it's going to be a much shorter talk than Bill's, talking about how to build a partner ecosystem. And I'm going to focus more on kind of how to scale it and how to think about it. What are some tips, tricks, strategies that I've learned over the past 3 years at CloudFlare. So by way of introduction, again, I'm Maria. I head the business development organization at CloudFlare. And to help you understand what I'm talking about throughout the presentation, I'm going to spend literally 30 seconds just telling you about CloudFlare.
You should turn your microphone
on. I don't think there's a clicker.
Want me to? I can move it forward if you want.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Better? Better?
Yep, just move the microphone up.
Yeah. Thank you. Is it better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. All right, so CloudFlare's mission is to build a better internet. And what we do is we take any website, mobile application, or API, and we make it faster, safer, and available. And that doesn't require inserting any kind of code, hardware, or software. We accelerate traffic, and we sit in front of our customers' applications or websites, protect them from attacks, and so forth. So we've grown very, very fast. Today, we serve over 100 billion page views per month. And what that means is that we sit in front of 5% of the internet worldwide web requests. So just to give you a scale, an idea of our scale. We have over 2 million websites that are using our services. And over the past couple of years, we've partnered with over 5,000 service providers in different organizations. And so that sounds great, but it didn't really start that way. It took a lot of work and a lot of time to get to here. And what I want to spend my time today on sharing with you some of the strategies and some of the tips and things that I learned throughout this process. And hopefully you can take some of those learnings and apply them in your own day-to-day lives. So the first thing is start very selectively with your partnership strategy. So it's really, really hard to kind of think through who should you partner with, at what stage should your company partner with what type of partners? Are you ready? What do you need to build? What do you need to develop? And so forth. So you really have to know your industry, your space, what are the trends and where it's headed. And think through, you have limited resources, especially engineering resource, you have limited time. Oftentimes you just have one shot and you want to make sure you get it right. So what's the context, at least at our stage of development, kind of the 0 to 10 partners, you know, you don't really have an API. You may or may not understand your potential partner's specific needs, and you really don't have a business development organization or a partnership organization. So it's usually like the founders trying to build those partnerships. Ideally, it would be the founders. And maybe you have one business hire that's hustling and doing everything from sales to business development and partnerships. And so the first partner, that's the hardest. In our case, what happened is we had the CTO of HostGator call us out of the blue at one point, and we were still in our private beta. We were, testing with 500 customers, kind of launching new products, breaking them, starting again, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And we get this call from the 6th largest hosting provider in the world that manages over 6 million websites. And they told us, they said, look, we have a real problem. And the problem is that every time one of their customers' websites got attacked, all the other several hundred websites hosted on that specific server got affected. So as a result, performance for them slowed down. Then their support teams had to spend hours and hours and hours trying to migrate that one specific customer into an environment and so forth. So that was their problem. And we said, well, that's a great problem, and we'll solve it in a little while when we're out of the private beta and the product is launched. But they really said, hey, come work with us. We want to do this. It's a real problem. So kind of almost reluctantly, because we didn't have the APIs, we were not prepared yet to work at that scale. We started talking to them and working with them. And in a way, it was our true first win-win partnerships where they really understood where we were at, and we understood what the problem was, and we were able to form that symbiotic relationship with them. So I came up with this little acronym to help you maybe think through your first partnerships. And it's like, first have like a private beta for select partners. And only work with, once you've done your analysis and identified who are your preferred partners, just ask the ones that you trust, the ones who are not going to go, if something goes wrong, and tweet bad things about you or write bad comments on forums and kind of ruin it for you to be able to attract other partners. So be very selective, use your networks, figure out who those right partners are. And if, for example, Microsoft or Rackspace or Amazon are your first ideal partners, maybe they should not be in your beta. Maybe you want to start much smaller and where the risk is much lower and have partners who are more patient and understand what you're going through as a company. And then use that phase to really listen, reiterate, listen to them, ask them what the problems are, understand what they need, and work with them on that. So, kind of next stage, you got your first couple of partners, you understand what the need is, you know what your product does and that doesn't do, what the limitations are, what you're missing from a marketing standpoint. Then the next step is to think through how to lower the hurdles. How do you scale that partner ecosystem? And so the main thing that's worked for us is to really avoid kind of the temptation to talk about ourselves and who we are and how awesome our product is, and to instead focus on what problems we're solving for those partners. So going to them and understanding, what are you building? What are your needs? What's next on your roadmap? What do you have resources to do versus what you don't have resources to do? Just really understand what their problems are, and then maybe talk to them about how you can solve that problem if you've identified the right partner. And at that point, hopefully you've done what Bill was talking about and convinced your organization that it is worth investing in an API, and you started the foundation of an API that you can leverage then to grow the partner ecosystem. You have like a partner, you understand the needs because you already have a couple people using the platform, the partners I should say, and then you have the beginning of the formation of a business development team. And just on that topic, when I say business development team, start very small. Maybe ideally you just need one person in the beginning, but pair them up with the right engineer, pair them up with the right developers, make sure that they're very technical. One of my biggest pet peeves as a business development person myself is when I go into meetings with other business folks and they say, I'm really not all that technical, so I can't talk about this and that. It means like if you're early stage, you're just beginning, you can't use this as an excuse. You have to know your product. You have to open the documentation, understand how things work, and be credible. Because one of the biggest things in closing those early partnerships is that you put people in front of the partners who are credible and who can gain trust. And oftentimes you're talking to large organizations. The last thing you want is for your team to not be able to stand there and say, look, I know what I'm talking about, I've done this all before, and really gain their trust and convince them that they have to close a partnership with you. And then when you're building different tools for partners, it is very tempting, especially from your engineers, to just hack things very quickly and not have a scalable database, not have a scalable API. But it is your responsibility as the founder or the partner manager to really think at scale. Think about what Bill was talking about. Today, you have these 10 partners, and you can do a bunch of different hacks in the system to get them onboarded. But what happens when they scale? And what happens when you want to drive millions of dollars of revenue through your partner programs? You want to make sure that you have the billing systems in place, the APIs in place that allow you to add hundreds and then thousands of partners, especially if you're working with an ecosystem that has a vast number of small and medium players and you want to automate them and scale them. You cannot start thinking early enough about that scalability problem. It becomes a really big problem after the first couple of partners. Another thing is, it's very tempting. In my previous career, I was a venture capitalist, and oftentimes people would come to me and say, you know, I'm just getting started, and I just have a business plan, but here's an NDA, sign this NDA. Sometimes it's very tempting to overwhelm your partners with paperwork, with like a 20-page contract, with 3 NDAs, with a bunch of other requirements, or try to convince them to spend weeks and weeks and weeks developing on top of your beautiful unfinished API. You can't do this. You're not going to be successful. So one of the big things that we did at CloudFlare is we reduced, completely eliminated actually the paperwork for our partner programs in the beginning, where we said, okay, you know, you can offer our free service and there's no contract required. There is no minimums, no penalties, no hidden charges. We're not gonna like come after your customers. So that's how we did it. Initially we started without contracts, and that really helped. Another thing that we did is be very transparent about where we at in the stage of development of the different tools that our partners needed, and also the stage of development of our product. So those are some things to think about. Anything you can do yourself to save your partner the requirement to waste or invest engineering time is going to make you more capable to close partnerships. And then my favorite one is, it is again sometimes so tempting to go after your biggest partner and commit the entire company to that project. Be disciplined. Say not now to some partners, even if they're your absolutely ideal partner. Only go to them when you're ready. Because when you're ready, they're going to stick and stay with you, and you're going to get to those numbers and the scale that Bill was talking about. If you go too early and if you're not ready yet, then you run a real risk to never be able to gain their trust again. So even if they're pushing on you, and they want you to start the partnership and they want you to start building for them and customizing things for them, do it on your own time when your product is baked and when you're ready for those partnerships. And then what really helps, especially if in your ecosystem you have thousands of partners. So for example, one of the verticals that we work a lot and have been very successful in are hosting providers. And so think about, you know, the GoDaddies of the world, the HostGators of the world, Media Temples, and so forth. Those hosting providers are also our international channel, and there are over 45,000 of them in the world. So what's worked really well for us is to launch a formal program for those hosting providers and outline what it's like, what are they getting, and you know, exactly how it works. And so you choose the right event for your company. It may be, you know, launch or TechCrunch Disrupt or Structure or Future Stack or, you know, whatever is the right event. And one quick word in conferences, what I have noticed is that oftentimes it's very tempting to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into going to events and having booths and making like a big splash and spending a ton of money. My advice is pick one event that's very key. Go there, meet your partners. Go and ask them, what is your most successful partnership? You know, who else do you offer? What are the other third-party integrations? What's worked? What's not worked? What price points are you targeting? What marketing campaigns are you doing with those partners? Really get to know them. One thing that we did in the beginning is, you know, we started something called the CloudFlare limos. So as a young company, nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody really has heard of your brand and trust you. So what we did is we said, okay, we're going to shuttle this conference attendees from the airport to the conference venue, and we're just going to sit with them in the limo and not really pitch them, but just have a very informal social conversation. Because, you know, if you're ever doing the limo rides, people are tired. They want to check their phone and they want to get their water and they don't necessarily want to hear a pitch. So if you're doing any kind of creative marketing around events, also be very mindful of your audience's kind of state of mind because it can backfire on you. So we are now doing the CloudFlare limos about twice a year, which, you know, internally I position as a team building event. It's almost, well, it's a lot of hard work and sometimes it runs for the full day. For my team, it's actually a great way to meet the partners, talk to them, you know, help them when they're tired and so forth. And now we have conference organizers coming to ask us to do it, so we're kind of a little bit trapped into this limo ride sharing. And then you don't have to break the bank. I mean, t-shirts, clearly we're all in Silicon Valley and we have tons of t-shirts and we don't know what to do with them and we don't even take them at events. But that's not necessarily the case when you go to Houston or when you go to like the Midwest, and as you know, some conferences are in Vegas or wherever, you know, so you can still use the good old t-shirt, just, you know, make sure it's high quality or something else, something that's memorable and that exposes your brand and makes impression. So one thing that works great for us is that we have women's sizes t-shirts. And you know, a lot of the events I go to are 95% men, and we just tell them, take one for your wife, take one for your daughter, you know, and this way they get to stare at our logo at home sometimes. So there are ways to do it. You know, and just very quickly, fine, so you now have about 100 partners, and you know, it really depends on how you structure your partnership programs. On the consumer side of things, you may be very tempted to just do referrals, partner with someone like Commission Junction and just give a cut from every sale and you know, scale it very fast. On the enterprise side of things, you're probably looking for those deep integrations where your product is one-click simple and customers, you know, don't have to sign up, it's just there, maybe it's white label. So think through, maybe all you need are 10 partners and then you're done. You know, maybe you need thousands of partners and you never need to hire another salesperson in your organization. It really depends on what your product is. But to get to the next level, you know, what has worked really well for CloudFlare in particular, so yes, we have an API, but you know, we identified a real problem, which is that our partners don't have time and developer resource. They don't want to spend time building on top of our beautiful API. So we spend a lot of time learning what are the most common tools and platforms that they use. And in our case, it's things like server control panels, cPanel, parallels, host bill, a lot of billing and provisioning systems. So we said, okay, we're going to spend CloudFlare's engineering time and resources to make it super easy and build plugins on top of all these APIs. So instead of going to partners saying, look, on average, it's going to take you 3 to 4 weeks to build on top of my API, I can now go and tell them it's going to take you 20 minutes, and you plug and play, and you're ready to offer my product without having to spend any engineering resource. And that's worked really well for us. And now, you have to have a voice. So if conferences and events are kind of your sweet spot for getting partners, then when you go to those conferences and events, have something to say, whether it's a new product launch, whether you're announcing a partnership and doing co-branding with them. Oftentimes, you don't even have to have a booth. You can have presence at your partner's booth, and save a bunch of money and roam around the conference floor and meet new partners. So you just have to decide what works best for you. And of course, the usual suspects that you can use just comes without saying. At that stage, once you've scaled the programs and you have over 100 partners, in our case, we started doing this once we had over 1,000, you can start introducing tiers and think through at what partner tier I offer what, whether it's like sweetening the reseller plans that you're offering, or giving them training incentives, or calling them bronze, silver, gold, whatever works best in your industry. But don't rush with the tiers. First, learn what matters to your partners, and then start building those tiers. And that's a good time to say, okay, I've already conquered whatever vertical I'm focused on, and now I can explore telco, I can explore other new verticals, and start experimenting in those verticals. I'm getting the time signal. And lastly, you want to start thinking about, I now need account managers, I now need solutions engineers, I now need partner, developers, partner product managers. Grow the team. And one secret that has worked really well for me, I do a lot of our new employee trainings and orientations. We hire incredible people, as I'm sure do you. So make sure that every person in your company, from the salespeople to the developers to the support people, know how to pitch your partnership programs and are your advocate. Because all of them have those networks, and in fact, some of our best partnerships have come through referrals from our engineers, because they talk to the right people. All those different episodes that Bill was talking about, his Rackspace movie, or his sitcom, your engineers can help you cover those episodes much faster. For example, as opposed to you, the business development person, or the founder, calling all those people and trying to convince them. Leverage your entire organization, prepare them, train them, coach them, incentivize them to bring new partners. And with that, iterate, listen, improve. Don't forget to listen and reconnect. Check with those partners regularly. Be like, hey, how's it going? Congrats on this press release that I read. Stay in touch. The one and only biggest thing to remember is that a partnership is not a sale. As tempting as it is to sign that contract and move on to the next one, it is completely different than a sale. And you heard from Bill that it took him 4+ years to get $2 million, or 6 years?
6 years.
It takes a very long time, and you have to set up those expectations internally that initially may be very small, but over the long term, partnerships are strategic. They're not a sale. So keep that in mind when you're building them. And that's all I have.